Diamonds are rare. That's why they're expensive. You've heard that your whole life. It's why an engagement ring costs what it costs. It's the entire justification for spending 3 months' salary on a clear rock. Here's the problem. It isn't true. It was never true. Diamonds are not rare. They never were. And the company that convinced the entire world otherwise, the company that built a 100-year monopoly on that lie, is right now, in 2026, being sold off in pieces by its own parent company after losing nearly $7 billion in 3 years. This is the story of De Beers, how one company manufactured an entire global tradition out of nothing, controlled the price of a priceless object for almost a century, and how that grip is finally, completely breaking. The story starts in 1888 in a dusty mining town in South Africa called Kimberley. A British businessman named Cecil Rhodes had a simple insight. If you control the mines, you control the diamonds. So he bought them. Not one mine, as many as he could. Claim after claim, funded by London banking money, until he'd consolidated South Africa's diamond fields under a single company, De Beers Consolidated Mines. It wasn't yet a global empire, but it was already something rarer than the diamonds themselves. Total control of a market, from the ground up. In 1926, a German immigrant named Ernest Oppenheimer joined De Beers' board. Over the next 3 decades, he did something even more ambitious than Rhodes. He didn't just control the mines in one country. He built a system to control diamonds everywhere they were found. But in the 1930s, that empire nearly collapsed before it became legendary. The Great Depression gutted luxury spending worldwide. Diamond sales cratered. People weren't buying jewelry. They were buying groceries. For a company that had bet everything on controlling supply, a total collapse in demand was an existential threat no amount of mine ownership could fix. De Beers didn't have a diamond problem. It had a desire problem. Nobody wanted what they were selling enough to pay for it. So in 1938, they did something almost no mining company has ever done. They hired an advertising agency. The agency was N.W. Ayer and Son. The assignment was strange. De Beers didn't want them to sell a specific product or push a specific brand. They wanted them to make an entire category of object, one most people considered an unnecessary luxury, feel mandatory. Ayer's strategy was patient and frankly brilliant. They planted stories in newspapers and magazines about diamond romance. They paid for diamond rings to appear in Hollywood films, dressing fictional love with real product placement. They sent speakers into high schools to lecture teenage girls about the trend toward diamond engagement rings. Then, in 1947, a copywriter named Francis Garrity scrawled 4 words at the end of a late-night work session. A diamond is forever. Before that campaign, fewer than 1 in 10 American engagement proposals involved a diamond. Within a generation, that changed completely. By the 1980s, a diamond wasn't an option for an engagement ring. It was the default. And the slogan did something even more useful for De Beers than selling rings. It discouraged resale. If a diamond is forever, you don't sell it back. The phrase wasn't just emotional poetry. It was inventory management, disguised as romance. The campaign didn't stop at America. In Japan, only 5% of brides received a diamond ring in 1967. By the 1980s, that number had climbed to 60%. This wasn't a company responding to consumer demand. This was a company manufacturing consumer demand on a planetary scale, from scratch. With demand secured, De Beers turned to the other half of the equation, making sure the supply of diamonds always felt tighter than it actually was. Through a structure called the Central Selling Organization, De Beers became the single channel nearly every rough diamond on Earth had to pass through. They didn't just mine diamonds. They bought them from other producers too. When demand softened, they didn't lower prices. They stockpiled. They held diamonds back from the market entirely, manufacturing scarcity even when the ground was producing plenty. At its peak, in the late 1980s, De Beers controlled nearly 90% of the world's rough diamond supply. Diamonds weren't rare. De Beers simply made sure they behaved as if they were. But controlling that much of a global commodity meant controlling, knowingly or not, where the money went after the sale. Through the 1990s, diamonds mined in conflict zones, Sierra Leone, Angola, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, were funding civil wars. Rebel groups traded rough stones for weapons. The world started calling them blood diamonds. The company's answer was the Kimberley process, a certification system launched in 2003, named, pointedly, after the same town where De Beers itself was founded a century earlier. De Beers helped design it. De Beers championed it publicly. But critics pointed out an awkward truth. The organization accused of fueling the problem was now writing the rules meant to solve it. The Kimberley process improved transparency, but it didn't end the trade in conflict stones. And it didn't undo the reputational damage already done. While De Beers was managing its reputation, something more dangerous was happening to its business model. The monopoly itself was leaking. Major new diamond deposits were discovered in Russia, Canada, and Australia. And one by one, these producers realized they didn't need De Beers anymore. By 2000, De Beers' share of the global diamond supply had fallen from its historic peak to 63%. Then United States antitrust lawsuits caught up with decades of price-fixing allegations, forcing a legal reckoning and a formal settlement in the early 2000s. The company that had once controlled nearly every diamond on Earth was now just one major player among several. The empire wasn't gone, but the monopoly, the actual mechanism that let De Beers set the world price of a priceless object, was unraveling. Then came the threat De Beers never fully saw coming. A diamond that didn't need to be mined at all. Lab-grown diamonds are not fake. They are chemically, physically, and optically identical to natural diamonds, grown in a controlled facility instead of pulled from the earth. By the 2020s, they cost 80 to 90% less. De Beers' response in 2018 was almost defensive. They launched their own lab-grown brand, Lightbox, deliberately priced low, a strategic move meant to brand lab-grown diamonds as cheap, disposable costume jewelry, protecting the prestige of natural stones. It backfired completely. Lab-grown prices kept falling anyway. Consumers didn't treat lab diamonds as a novelty. They treated them as a smarter purchase. By the mid-2020s, lab-grown diamonds had captured more than 45% of the US engagement ring market. In 2025, De Beers shut Lightbox down entirely. The company that built an empire on manufactured scarcity had just watched a technology make scarcity itself optional, and its own attempt to control that technology had failed. Over 3 consecutive years, De Beers' parent company, Anglo American, wrote down the value of the diamond business by a combined $6.8 billion. $1.6 billion in 2023, $2.9 billion in 2024, $2.3 billion in 2025. The company's carrying value collapsed from over $4 billion to just $2.3 billion. In 2025 alone, De Beers posted an underlying loss of $511 million, a 20-fold deterioration from the year before. Rough diamond production fell 12% as the company deliberately scaled back, no longer able to sell what it dug up at the prices it wanted. And in 2026, Anglo American, the company that owns 85% of De Beers, is actively trying to sell the entire business. Not spin it off as a triumphant new chapter. Sell it. Offload it. Anglo's CEO has confirmed they're in advanced talks with potential buyers, with the government of Botswana treated as a crucial party in whatever happens next. Step back from the diamonds for a second, because this story isn't really about rocks. It's about how easily an entire culture can be built around something that didn't exist 100 years ago, and how thoroughly people can forget that it was built at all. Most people who buy a diamond engagement ring today believe they're participating in an ancient tradition. They aren't. They're participating in an advertising campaign that worked so well, it erased its own fingerprints. That's worth sitting with because diamonds aren't the only tradition manufactured this way. Every industry that depends on a belief rather than a necessity is one disruption away from finding out how fragile that belief actually was. De Beers spent a century convincing the world that a diamond is forever. It turns out forever lasted about 137 years, and it wasn't the diamonds that ran out. It was the company's ability to control what people believed about them.